Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Alberta News and Views. Today, the head of the snake over at CBC, Catherine Tate, was answering questions from members of Parliament during committee. Catherine Tate gave herself bazillions of dollars in bonuses, while at the same time firing employees at the CBC. Her answers to some of these questions are just astounding. It is unbelievable what is going on inside that woman's head. It's crazy. Pierre Poilievre says CBC CEO refuses to answer on whether she'll accept a bonus while millions of Canadians are struggling and the CBC has fewer viewers than ever before. This was from today. This is outrageous. Fire Trudeau, defund the CBC, and then you can go and sign this petition. We're going to watch a few clips on that. But first, I have some more little tidbits I need to show you and just get them out of the way. This is from Trudeau Media Corp, Toronto Red Star. Surprise, surprise. Carbon tax Mark Carney says he plans to enter elected politics as Liberals begin to organize leadership bids. Let me read that again. Well, the Liberals begin to organize leadership bids. Justin Trudeau is done. He is gone. The Liberals and their financiers are throwing him out on his ass. They are done with him. Trudeau's economic advisor says he plans to enter elected politics, but won't say when. Probably on Friday. Justin Trudeau is done like dinner. Moving on. Energy Minister Jonathan Wilkinson says scrapping the carbon tax will make 8 out of 10 families poorer because they'll lose their rebate checks. Let me read that again. He says scrapping the carbon tax will make 8 out of 10 families poorer. So is this a climate plan or a wealth distribution plan? Listen to this and watch this. Watch this piece of paper right here. And let me know if you think he's lying or not.
The Parliamentary Budget Officer and 300 economists across this country have said that 8 out of 10 Canadian families get more money back, and it works directly inverse to income. By taking away the price on pollution, you will actually make the most vulnerable more vulnerable. The Leader of the Opposition and his caucus know that. Canadians know that climate change is real. Canadians know you need a plan for the future of the economy, and that is what is on this side of the House. Shame on you.
It must be really hard on those Liberal NDPers to hold all that guilt in and all of those lies. And it's starting to come out and they can't even hold a piece of paper anymore. They are literally shaking in their boots and rattling apart. Unreal. Here we are back with Pierre Poilievre and just Catherine Tate with the CBC. It's unbelievable. Listen to this.
So, Ms. Tate, I would ask again, and it's my understanding that your term will be coming to a close. I believe January 3rd is the end of that. Now, in terms of performance pay, bonuses, and a severance package, we are in a situation where Canadians are struggling. The cost of living is making it unaffordable for so many Canadians to afford the essentials. Yet, when you look at the bonuses, $18 million awarded across CBC, including averaging tens of thousands of dollars to executives within the organization, yet your metrics certainly don't seem to add up with the talking points that are provided. As you conclude your tenure at CBC, can you commit today that you will not take a severance package or bonuses for the last 2 fiscal years?
You've made several points in that question. What I would say is, first of all, if we're talking about 22-23, all the results of that year are public. For 23-24, all of the key performance indicators set out and approved by the board were achieved, if not exceeded.
Thank you. So with respect, Ms. Tate, I did ask specifically about your compensation. So when the range of compensation that is provided, you make more than the Prime Minister of this country. That's your compensation. So to get a bonus on top of that at a time when viewership is down, ad revenue for your organization is down. I asked specifically about whether or not you would refuse to take a severance package at the conclusion of your term as CEO.
I believe that Canadians would expect that the corporation honor its commitments to its non-unionized employees as it would to its unionized employees, and I would just correct the record. Whereas total ad revenues are down, digital ad revenues are up since the beginning of my tenure, which digital revenue was at about 38 million. This last year it clocked in at about 100 million. So I think it's important that we have accurate descriptors of what's going on at CBC Radio-Canada.
So Ms. Tate, you said that it's confidential, that information, but that just doesn't work for Canadians. Canadians look at $18 million awarded in bonuses, the fact that you just spent $1,000 a night for a hotel room in Paris during the Olympics, and we are in a situation where you are coming to the conclusion of your term being paid more than the Prime Minister of this country makes, and you refuse today to rule out that you will receive either bonuses or so-called performance pay or a severance package at the conclusion of your term. It's confidential, doesn't cut it for Canadians. It doesn't cut it for parliamentary oversight. So again, I ask, will you specifically today share with this committee whether or not you will refuse a severance package or bonus at the conclusion of your term as President and CEO of CBC?
As I've said, I consider that to be a personal matter. And I believe I'm protected by the Privacy Act in that regard.
So Ms. Tate, taxpayers pay your salary, as they do for all of us, and you can Google an MP's salary, you can Google the Prime Minister's salary. But here we are discussing $18 million paid out to bonuses, $3 million paid out to executives. Madam Tate, your own documents show that there are 631 managers at CBC. 43, I believe it is, executives. And you're defending those, the average bonus paid out to executives at your organization is more than most Canadians make in a year, and you're claiming that it's confidential?
In a lifetime.
Madam Speaker, Madam Chair, through you, I would suggest that it is unbelievable that Ms. Tate would come before this committee with a very specific motion outlining that answers are demanded when it comes to the compensation received by a public broadcaster. These are taxpayers' dollars that are paying for this organization. So, again, I will ask and emphasize, Ms. Tate, at the conclusion of your term, whether it's for previous fiscal year's bonuses or so-called performance pay,
30 seconds.
or the conclusion of a severance package, will you refuse that out of respect for the taxpayers that have paid for you to have this role over the last number of years?
I believe I've answered the question, and for the record, I would like to correct some of the errors, in fact, that the member has articulated. One, this $18 million in performance pay is not, these are not dollars that aren't agreed upon well in advance of the end of the fiscal year. We have a rigorous process in place, a process that has been in place for 20 years, Madam Chair. It's a process that is similar to that of other Crown corporations, other government agencies, and most private companies. A process that is guided by third-party consultants that advise us, experts that advise us on what it is we should be paying our executives. And
blah, blah, blah. We don't care if that's what the biz is, what's business as usual. He asked if you deserve it or not, if you think it's unethical because it is taxpayer dollars. I've been watching these people for years now, and I am telling you, they think deep in their bones that they are above you and I because of the positions that they hold. We are literally peasants to them. They think that they deserve it because of the bubble that they live in. And when you understand that, all of these scandals with these contractors and consultants and the bazillion dollars that they keep on stealing from Canadians, that's normal. That is normal. I am telling all of you out there, once again, all roads lead to Western independence because we have systemic corruption within the federal government. It cannot be changed. The only way is to get provincial independence or Western independence and dissolve the federal government. We don't need it. We need to get a hold of our finances. I don't want to give my money. I don't want my money stolen anymore to these corrupt people. It's not even just politicians. These are friends and family of politicians. And she is part of it. She's part of the club. So that's where she's saying, well, they set the rate for how much they pay me. It's not my fault. What it is your fault, Catherine, because you're accepting it. They don't care that there are people standing up at food banks in Canada. They don't care about all that stuff. They're not part of it. They are part of the Emerald City. They're part of the Ottawa cliquey elites. She doesn't even live in Canada. Last I checked, she's still living in New York. Of course she's going to take the millions and millions of dollars. She doesn't care. I got more. I got a lot more. This is going to be like a long video, so if you just want to leave right now, I totally understand, but it gets better. The CEO for CBC is totally mental. Here is Jamil Jabani. It just keeps on going.
So I'd like to ask if you agree with a statement that's been attributed to you. And I'm going to quote, "The defund narrative has picked up momentum, especially as it relates to CBC television." Did that come from you?
Yes.
Okay. So that was reported last week by the National Post from an email they obtained from you, and I believe in January 2024. Is that correct?
I presume so, yes.
Okay. So when you look at the concerns over your expenses, right, which I think legitimate concerns over where your personal vacation time ends and where your billable time begins, when you see the concerns over news stories related to your bonuses that are going out and bonuses you may receive or executives receive, the $18 million that we've been talking about today, do you think any of that might contribute to what you yourself have observed as a growing movement to defund the CBC?
I absolutely do not.
Why is that?
Because I believe that having experienced now the third appearance at this committee, I would say that there is a clear effort on the part of members of this committee to vilify and to discredit me and to discredit the organization. Not one question has been asked, not one question has been asked about the accomplishments of the public broadcaster over the last 6 years and how we have served
I think
Canadians.
Our Liberal colleagues have asked you some of those questions, so I think that's not a fair representation of your time here today. But let's go back to something that our colleague Mr. Coteau asked you earlier. You referred to KPIs, key performance indicators. Would the idea that a growing movement in our country would like to defund your organization be weighed into an analysis of key performance indicators and determining whether the discretionary portions of the bonuses that you've acknowledged there is a percentage that is discretionary and not contractually obligated, that those percentages that you might consider, if people don't like what we're doing, if people don't trust us, if people would like the government to take money away from our bloated organization, maybe we shouldn't be spending more of their money than we have to. Could that not cross your mind in analyzing the KPIs?
We do not take into consideration political wins or influences in determining our business metrics.
So you would call it
Unreal.
A political reaction for the average Canadian to hear that you're doling out $18 million in bonuses, that you're billing the taxpayer for your time in Paris while on a personal vacation. That's a political concern that the average Canadian wouldn't have a pure interest in that based purely on the fact that they are giving you their hard-earned money through taxes?
I'm not sure I understand what
30
you're
seconds.
getting at.
This is exactly what I'm saying. They do not understand what it's like to be what we would consider normal, a normal working Canadian. They are above it. She doesn't understand. She said she does not take into consideration the opinions of the peasants. They don't care. I got more. So this was from today. This is John Rustad. For all of you out there that don't know, there was a big election in British Columbia, provincial election, and the results are still pending for a week. John Rustad. Now, this is why everybody can't stand the CBC. It's unreal. This is like one of the best interviews John Rustad has ever given. Watch this.
We knew it was going to be tight, and so it's going to be very interesting to see what happens here over the next week.
3 of 4 seats in Richmond. What does that tell you?
Well, Richmond, both Richmond and Surrey, really, when you look at what the Conservative vote represented, it was pretty much, rural BC, but also a lot of ethnic minorities, whether it's Chinese Canadians or Indo-Canadians. And so a lot of those groups came together and said, they had enough, whether it was the drugs and crime problems, whether it was SOGI that's going in our schools. There's a lot of things that were driving people that wanted to see change.
So drugs and crime and SOGI are 2 ways to scare people, basically.
Well, I wouldn't say that necessarily, but parents are very concerned about their kids. They're concerned about their own safety. And
sure, but is there anything to it? But I don't want to get into it because we do every time, but really, is there anything to fear from SOGI, really?
Well, when your 6-year-old boy, his grandson comes home and sitting at the dinner table and saying, Grandpa, is it okay that I'm a boy? At 6 years old, should they really be asking those questions?
Why not? Why wouldn't they ask a question?
Well, that's a question I think that the electorate looks at and says, they don't find that acceptable. When you look at also, quite frankly, the pornography that is in our schools.
There is no pornography involved in the SOGI program. There is no pornography in the SOGI program. And I don't want to go through this again because we go through it every time. But let's also talk about the crime and drug factor too, because you're in Richmond warning them against what you are calling drug dens. There are no supervised consumption sites in Richmond.
So first of all, let's actually show the books that are being made available in our schools on your television show, and to see what kind of ratings you get with that.
That are being made available in our schools. Right,
in our
they're
schools.
Not part of a curriculum.
They came from the SOGI initiative, which is not a curriculum. It is a philosophy that has been brought to schools. Consumption is being allowed. There was safe injection sites which were proposed to come into Richmond that we said, no, we will not allow that to happen.
Drug consumption takes place in every neighborhood in this province, in rich neighborhoods and poor neighborhoods, all over this province. People are consuming drugs.
So talk to the families that live in an area where one of these housing units have come in, and ask them about what's happened with the drugs and the crime within their neighborhoods, particularly when it's close to a school or playground. And take a look at these places.
People should be afraid then, is what you're saying.
People are afraid when you see the drugs and crime happening in their neighborhood.
Right.
There's random things going on. You seem to think that it is okay for this to be happening everywhere in the province. I do not believe that's true.
And I don't believe it's okay either. But what I'm saying is, when people are looking at the issues that they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, blowing things out of proportion, taking single incidents that are terrible incidents and trying to turn those into the norm is not necessarily helpful. The evidence shows that overall crime is down. The evidence shows that stranger attacks are down. The evidence shows.
So Stephen, I would challenge you on that. And the reason why I would challenge you on is this: talk to the police about it. And the problem
police
is,
will tell you the crime is down overall, that stranger attacks are down.
The police will tell you that it's down because they can't lay charges because there's no point. Charges are not going through. So many crimes are going without charges being laid. There's a reason why, for example, Save on Foods has hired 345 security guards around the province. And it's not because it's not because they suddenly think that they need those jobs. It's because they've got problems. They've got crime. They've got drugs coming. They got things, stuff being stolen out of the stores.
Right.
Their staff are not feeling safe. This is what is going on at communities.
Could it be because people can't afford to eat?
Talk to the small businesses where things are walking out of their stores on a regular basis and how difficult it is. Look at how many businesses are closed down now. People are not going downtown anymore because they're not feeling safe. This is what is out there in our society today, and it should not be trivialized and become normal.
I'm not trivializing it at all. I'm saying that you see the world in a very particular way, in a way that's a dangerous, awful place. That's it. And I don't know that everybody sees it that way.
This is exactly what I am talking about. The CBC carries the water for Justin Trudeau and that way of thinking because they are not based in the reality, which is our reality. We have to live in this dystopian nightmare when we get on the bus, when we go to school, when we talk to our kids, when we go to work, when we pay the carbon tax and don't get a rebate. The CBC, everybody at it is absolutely delusional. They are indoctrinated and they are nuts. They are just straight up crazy. I highly recommend all of you out there watch that full interview with John Roustad. He should have had this interview, or he should have found his stride about 2 weeks ago. He played it a little safe before the election, and he shouldn't have. He should have laid it out just like this, and then he would have felt more comfortable in their last debate, the last debate that they had with Eby. I'll keep you updated with as much as I can when I can. All of you out there, like, share, and take care, and follow me on Substack, Spotify, and YouTube. I really appreciate the support.